Good morrow everyone, Silvershire here, and welcome back to Palette Swap, where I rank the costumes and character designs of your favorite fighting games. And by your favorite fighting games, I mean my favorite fighting games, and by my favorite fighting games, I mean Soulcalibur. Today, we're looking at the reason you shouldn't use a critical edge when you have company, Cassandra Alexandra. But before we begin our analysis, here's a quick refresher course on who Cassandra is and what we should be looking for in her character designs. Cassandra is the younger sister of Sophitia, who we discussed a few episodes ago. Like her, Cass grew up in Athens and worshipped the ancient Greek pantheon, though she wasn't quite as devout. While Sophie spent her days praying, raising a family, and questing to destroy an evil sword because a giant statue told her to, Cass was happy to live a carefree and independent life. But all that changed when Sophie returned from said quest, badly wounded and with a shard of said evil sword lodged in her chest. She survived the ordeal, but Cass became furious with the gods for demanding so much of her family. One night, she stole Sophie's holy sword and shield and set out to destroy the cursed sword's soul edge in her sister's place. And then, since nothing can ever end well for the Alexandras, she ended up trapped in the astral chaos, where she succumbed to malfestation, went insane, and got killed by her younger self from an alternate dimension. Man, Soulcalibur got weird. Cassandra's Soulcalibur II 1P bears some similarities to Sophitia's, which makes sense both because they're sisters and because she was originally intended to be a replacement for Sophie. Overall, her outfit is more modern and sporty than her sister's. She has shorter hair, a pair of leggings under her skirt, short boots instead of sandals, and smaller pauldrons. It makes her look younger than Sophie and suits her tomboyish personality. She's also wearing a short necktie, which is nothing too noteworthy, but reappeared in all of her future 1Ps and most of her 2Ps, so it's become an iconic, recognizable symbol. It's hard to notice, but she also has what appear to be butterfly wings on the back of her cape thingy. Would have been neat if they incorporated that theme into the rest of her design. Her color palette is mostly white and blue like her sister, but there are also a few splashes of pink to set it apart. I don't have much to criticize about this costume, but it doesn't make a very strong impression either. It just comes across as a simpler version of Sophie's. 5 out of 10. Her 2P is more rooted in historical fantasy. Between the natural color palette and the ornate details, it reminds me of something that an elf or fairy would wear, yet it also seems tougher than her 1P thanks to the heavier armor. Her pauldrons and tunic feature a floral pattern similar to what you would see in ancient Greek artwork, so it slightly taps into her heritage. She also has a ponytail instead of a bob cut, which is less modern looking. Like some Street Fighter costumes that I've recently criticized, she's decided not to wear pants for some reason, but I actually don't think it looks out of place here, because the bit of exposed leg matches the bit of exposed arm. This is more unique than her 1P, but it still lacks a clear theme or identity. 6 out of 10. Like Sophie and Taki, Cass's 3P is based on a character from an old-school Namco arcade game. In her case, it's Valkyrie from The Legend of Valkyrie. Her outfit isn't a one-to-one recreation. She has a short, symmetrical skirt instead of a long, asymmetrical one, and she has the bob cut of her 1P instead of a long braid. I appreciate that they shook things up a little, as I find straight-up cosplay costumes to not be that interesting, but I unfortunately think that these changes are for the worse. They just make her silhouette less interesting. Also, her helmet seems a little wonky. I don't think it's the right size for her head. The Norse aesthetic is obviously new for Cass, but the concept of a Valkyrie suits her personality and weapon choice. Speaking of weapon choice, she's able to use Valkyrie's sword and shield, which is a nice touch. 5 out of 10. Her Soulcalibur III 1P is an iteration of her previous 1P. It gives her sleeves and adds a pauldron to her non-shield arm, making it slightly asymmetrical. This outfit utilizes pointier shape language, most obviously on her skirt and at the bottom of her jacket, which communicates her more aggressive personality compared to Sophie. While we're on the subject of comparisons to Sophie, she has a heart-shaped gold symbol on her shoulder, which kind of looks like an upside-down version of this symbol from the pauldron of Sophie's Soulcalibur III 1P. Her hair is similar to the last game, but it's feathered out more, and to be honest, I don't think it looks great. I preferred when it fell naturally around her face. Still, I like all this costume's added details. 7 out of 10. Prior to making this video, I had mostly forgotten what Cass's Soulcalibur III 2P was, and I'm surprised it didn't make a stronger impression on me, because looking at it now, I think it's her best costume. It goes all in on the warrior angle, drawing inspiration from gladiatrices, that's the plural of gladiatrix, which is the feminine version of gladiator, and Amazons. She's wearing asymmetrical armor that combines metal, leather, cloth, and even a leopard pelt. In Greek mythology, leopard pelts were associated with Dionysus, the god of, among other things, wine and partying. You know, maybe that whole alternate dimension thing never happened and Cass just had way too much to drink one night. Her top is similar to Sophie's from Soulcaliburs 1 and 2. Her palette is made up of warm colors, which is unique for Cass and contributes to the more aggressive aesthetic. It's also the only costume in the series, aside from one of her alternate colors in Soulcalibur VI, to change her hair color, which makes it even more unique. This is a 10 out of 10, and it's a shame that none of her future costumes have taken after this one. Her Soulcalibur IV 1P is nearly identical to her Soulcalibur II 2P, except it's a bit more revealing and has her usual 1P palette. I prefer the original colors, but this is fine. 5 out of 10. Her 2P, meanwhile, is more akin to her old 1Ps. This equipment is called the Atalanta set, named after a character from Greek mythology. None of the specific Atalanta myths are that pertinent to Cass, but the two do have quite a bit in common, such as beating up guys who try to hit on them. Unfortunately, this outfit doesn't seem to have anything to do with Atalanta besides the name. The main thing setting it apart from Cass's other designs is the white and bluish-green color palette, which somewhat matches Sophie's 2P from this game. 6 out of 10. Her Soulcalibur 6 design is similar to her Soulcalibur 2 and 3 1Ps, but it's noticeably fancier. There's a white lacy pattern on the edges of her skirt, and she's covered in gold designs. The shape language is rounder and therefore less aggressive, maybe to communicate her youth and inexperience after the series reboot. Her iconic necktie now connects to a long flowing scarf, which I'm always a sucker for, and it works especially well for Cass because she's a very bouncy character. Even just in her idle stance, the scarf whips around to create some nice secondary animation. She now has a complementary orange and blue color scheme, which I'm guessing was done to further differentiate her from Sophie, who's back to wearing her classic colors. I think this is a very successful redesign, but it doesn't blow me away like some others. 8 out of 10. Soulcalibur 6 doesn't have any alternate costumes, but it does have alternate colors. Her color 2 is pink, black, and lavender. Pink is a very attention-grabbing color that can easily clash with other hues, so I think it was smart to pair it with these dark and desaturated tones. There's less variety since her leggings are no longer a unique color, but they look good in black, so I really don't mind. 9 out of 10. Her color 3 is black and red and turns her into a Malfested. This is a reference to her crazed future self, or past self? Alternate timelines are confusing. Evil costumes are always neat, but I think Cassandra's is on the weaker side. She still has some brown and gold on her palette, which detracts from this stark black and red color scheme. It doesn't change her equipment like a lot of them do. I would have preferred if they gave her the battle damaged versions of her hair and leggings. As is, I'd say this is on par with the default. 8 out of 10. Lastly, her color 4 brings back her classic color palette and lets her hair down. The long hairstyle looks nice, but it's a weird choice since this is meant to emulate her older costumes, where her hair was either short or in a ponytail. Also an 8 out of 10. And with that, we have ranked every single Cassandra costume. Well, that's just my opinion, so what do you think? Let me know in the comments section down below if you agree or disagree with any of my rankings. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, I bid thee farewell.